Hello guys, the Maniac Zach here. I have a little confession to make. I love motion controls. Now, motion controls has been a pretty controversial topic in the game industry, especially pretty recently. Wait, whoa, what are you doing? Yeah, you. You're gonna dislike this video just because you don't like my opinion? Can you at least listen to my argument first before you get triggered about it? God. Anyways, I understand that the majority of gamers dislike motion controls because they feel that they don't have as much control as they do normally, and I get that. But when motion controls are implemented well, they can really benefit the game that they're in. For example, Metroid Prime Trilogy. Anyways, I played Metroid Prime on the original GameCube, and I have to say, I really enjoyed it. But something about moving your left stick to control Samus, while also having to look up and down with the right shoulder button, just felt really unnatural to me, especially since with other first-person shooter games at the time, they use the right analog stick. But when I replayed Metroid Prime on the Trilogy re-release for the Wii, I tested it out and I just loved it. Although it was a pain in the butt to switch your visor since you have to point your Wiimote at the certain area and then choose your visor instead of a simple press of the D-pad on the GameCube, moving around with your nunchuck and aiming with the Wiimote just felt a lot more natural, and so the controls really immersed me into the Metroid Prime universe. However, because motion controls were the only way to play the first three Prime games on the Trilogy re-release, it alienated those who preferred the original control scheme and wanted to get this game. So no matter what, if developers decide to include motion controls in their game, I think that they need to be optional. Because although I grew up with them and got used to them on the Wii, most gamers haven't, and they just don't like having to move their arms around to control their character in the game. Otherwise, if you have poorly executed motion controls, or ones that are unnatural like Star Fox Zero, it just becomes a mess. Most people wouldn't have bashed the game so much if Nintendo wasn't so stubborn on forcing people to use motion controls in the game. I think the main problem is that most people who hate motion controls find it difficult to get used to them, especially in games when they don't work properly. A lot of early Wii and Kinect titles had this problem, and by the time that game developers actually knew how to implement motion controls in the game well, the appeal of motion controls just wore off. I think these people need to give motion controls another chance. I'm not saying that they should have to like them like I do, but they should remember the motion controls can work well and do not always have to be implemented in a gimmicky way. For example, take a look at Superhot on Steam. I haven't played it, but from what I've seen, when you play it in virtual reality with the Oculus Touch controls, it just feels so much more fun to actually shoot your enemies and grab them and all that stuff, as opposed to using a normal controller. Although the game may still be fun and enjoyable with the normal control scheme, but something about actually using your arms to shoot the enemies with the touch controls just produces a more immersive and enjoyable experience for consumers, you know? There are other ways the games can be improved with motion controls besides Metroid Prime Trilogy, such as the gyro aiming in Breath of the Wild and both of the Splatoon games. The combination of using the right stick and moving around your controller to aim just feels really fast and precise. And personally, just using the right stick to aim in these games feels a little too uncomfortable for me. Yeah, it can be awkward to have to move you around your controller to get the angle you want, but getting that same angle with solely the right analog stick is just a little too problematic. Overall, because of the natural feeling you get while having to move your controller around a tiny bit while also using the right analog stick, and since that's better than the traditional method of just using the right analog stick, gyro aiming is a great example of how motion controls can be implemented well into the modern games industry. One important thing to remember is that motion controls was not just the main gimmick for the Wii, but also other consoles as well. The Xbox 360 had the Kinect all the way back in 2010, and since the console was 5 years old at the time the Kinect was released, it was an excellent way to extend the lifespan of the console, since there are no plans to release a successor to the 360 until 3 years later with the Xbox One. And we all know how that turned out. And I have to admit, the Kinect and pretty much every game that came out for it sucked. But you know what? The technology used to detect an entire body as opposed to just your hand movements with the Wii remote was really impressive for the time. However, even though the Kinect was greatly improved with its Xbox One 2.0 release, it doesn't excuse from the fact that it produced worse shovelware titles than the Wii.
Enter the Wii. Enter the Wii. Race for the best time on each course.
And Sony tried to rip off the Wii success with the PlayStation Move. And although it got great reception from critics, it didn't live up to its full potential. It's a shame, because this thing seems to be like it got the best parts about the Kinect and the Wii Remote's technology. At the end of the day, as long as developers can use motion controls to enhance the gaming experience and not in a gimmicky way like motion controls originally were, I'm fine with them still being used today, especially in Nintendo Switch titles. Unfortunately, we've already gotten 2 major titles on the Nintendo Switch even though it just came out, Ultra Street Fighter 2 and 1-2 Switch, that repeat some of the same problems that the early third-party Wii games had. Hopefully this isn't the case with Super Mario Odyssey and other future titles on the Nintendo Switch. Luckily, ARMS uses them really well, so that should be a good sign for the future. Anyways, if you agree or disagree with my opinions about motion controls, let me know in the comments below. And this was an experimental video, so I'm curious to see if I'll do more argument type videos in the future. Be sure to subscribe to know when future game related content like this will be released. Also follow me on my Twitter account @TheManiacZach to know when future videos are released, as well as some exclusive behind the scenes content with this channel and more. Anyways guys, I'll see you in my next video. Bye. Oh hey, you made it to the end of the video. If you want to see the previous video I did, click on the right to see the showcase of my first ever game I made. Or if you want to know another great Nintendo Switch game besides Splatoon 2, click on the left to check out my ARMS review. Anyways, I need to swim through some salty comments, so I'll see you guys soon.